Museum, I will never forget. The most traumatic, emotional I have ever been in SA.
Yeah, same. I had
do you guys realize when we went to Mandela House, we were not even moved now. We were
we've seen everything.
We were like, guys, this is too much.
Did you see the picture of the Chevy with the white,
blue,
with the Boer policeman?
Yeah, and the thing on the back.
And the back.
Goes assassinating like kids coming from a shop.
Yeah, buying a liter of milk.
Yeah, that's 1976, June 16th protest. I will never forget it. Yeah. No social media, no room, and with appetite. And these kids found a way to all come together and protest against being taught Afrikaans in school. Yeah, that was phenomenal.
It was the thing that really like got me was like there was this placard where a kid is standing saying, I may be a child, but I am an African child. Yeah. I was like, I saw that, I was like...
Using dustbin covers like what, as shield from
what it means to be an bullets. African child. Yeah. Like, you know...
A couple of the things you've mentioned in terms of the creative field, in terms of resilience, in terms of your journey, I'm very curious to hear more about. So what we always do with Mantalk when there's a guest is we just start off with it's a very simple question. It's not heavy.
Oh yeah, we got excited.
There's a very simple question we start with, and then we're going to just get into you as Anto, and because we always say people have more titles than a library. So you're another one. So we're going to get into all of those titles and your journey. Now, what we ask every guy and every lady that comes on here is sort of centered in what our Mantalk show is all about. So our show is all about positive masculinity, showing a good example of what men can be in society through conversations. Now, as a man in society, we normally get knocked about saying, toxic men, men are trash, all that sort of thing. So we want to sort of tip the scales, debunk it, and provide some balance again through this question. So Anto, as a man in society today, what is one positive thing that you contribute and that you think men contribute to society?
I think the thing would be balance. I mean, I really love that word balance. And when you mention it, I literally lit up. And when I say balance is because one of the things about being a man is that you have to stand out from the crowd. But when you stand out from the crowd, it becomes problematic to a lot of men and people in society that no. I know being a man is, you're supposed to stand up for but why would you give people a space to breathe and be anything other than the manliness that we're talking about? So I think balance is important. And I think, for men who, for example, who have allowed either women to work in, serious or senior positions where they are from, men who do not mansplain, men who sit in rooms and allow women to just be women without judgment, but also giving that space and opportunity on my radio show to not only give not just women as a gender card, but also men an opportunity to be able to speak out and speak about things like, for example, therapy and talk about mental illness and mental wellness. So balance is important. I mean, we are made to feel like we are supposed to always be on top of the world, but I think it comes with a huge responsibility. And that responsibility also allows people to be comfortable in their own skin and using your space as a man in a very patriarchal society to provide opportunity and platforms for people, whether they're high, whether they're low, whether they're of whatever stature, to be themselves, whether it's a man or a woman. Because we also have scenarios where men are not allowed the platform and the opportunity to speak. And especially when you talk about a society where we've got a lot of, female empowerment, there's that chance for men to sort of want to walk away, to not be seen that they're not supporting women fully, which also means that they might let men be and sort of fall under the cracks. So that opportunity is very important to give it through interviews. I mean, when you look at my radio show, for example, I will interview men and women alike in terms of them wanting to aspire to be politicians and all those things, whether it's artists, whether it's couples, whether it's people, content creators. It's just important that we provide that opportunity, regardless of what we think of men or women in society.
What an answer.
Oof. Come on.
Jeez. This
Anto
guy.
for president.
I don't want to abuse you guys.
You guys. Have you been watching Mantalk? I don't know.
There you go.
Okay.
Even me, I get shocked by myself sometimes, guys. No, that's the thing. You see, this is the thing though. Like which people don't even know. People don't even like. It seems sometimes unreal to people. I have massive serious anxiety
Huh?
So yeah, like serious anxiety. So sometimes when you speak, you're like, guy, no way. Why am I in this room?
Yeah.
Why are they asking me these questions? So you sort of sometimes feel like you want to be like right in what you do, but then you realize with therapy and with taking meds that just let it flow.
Let it happen. Because
Let
you let
it
it
go.
happen.
Just yeah. And I think that's what has sort of made me better
Yeah.
over the last couple of years, because then you're not hung up or you're stuck in your head. Like when you're in the zone, in the question, just get on with it and move on.
Facts.
And be honest in your truth.
Facts.
Because we're stuck in our heads a lot.
Facts. I'm going to follow up with the next question.
Yeah.
And this question is going to be about your early life. Because I feel like, because I've been listening a lot to your music, and I feel like you're very inspired by who you are growing up.
Yeah.
And who you are as a person. So could you please just let us know, like, what did you grow up and what was that experience like, and how has that like influenced your music and your personality today?
So I was born in '85. I was born in Kawangware, in a very sort of disadvantaged background and home. But I mean, I always tell people that you always realize later. In fact, I was speaking to a friend of mine when I showed them where I schooled. I schooled in Lavington Primary, and I was telling them that I only realized way later that I was born poor. I didn't know that I was born poor because my grandfather, where we lived in Kawangware, is very. I mean, I was brought up in Nairobi, brought up in Nairobi, but in a very Ushago background, because my grandfather being half Masai, half with with roots in Masai and being Kikuyu, is that my dad had to, by the time he became a man, he had to just move out of the homestead and build his place there, same as his other brothers, my uncles. So we didn't know like Kirinyaga. We actually don't have any of that. Only my mom, we go to my mom's shags, but my shags is here. So I was brought up in that sort of upbringing, and I only realized I was poor when we were older, because I have a community, I'd have people that I grew up with. But one of the things my grandfather did was very clear, that I had to go to a good primary school. So I know they had to move mountains for me to school in Lavington Primary. And, I'd go to school, learn how to speak, learn how to express myself, be comfortable with my own skin, mix with kids from different backgrounds, see kids being dropped in school by cars and all those things. When you get older, you realize, hey, we don't have a car. You realize, hey, people eat good food at the canteen. Hey, may have to come with ugali. Oh, kids will laugh at you when you come with ugali. Da, 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 da. So I realized those things later. But I thank God the foundation that I had, because of the schooling that I had, sort of didn't make me uncomfortable and didn't remind me constantly of who I was. Like, you're a poor kid. So that didn't occur. And so only when I got older, I realized, wow, this came with a lot of huge responsibility. I was quite talented in school, ended up performing for the then president, Moi, in 97, when a certain MP was defecting from DP to KANU. And those days were quite political. My dad didn't come to the event, because then from where we were, Kawangware was quite opposition. So you could not even want to be seen in that area. And I mean, Moi was also powerful. So there was that. And then ended up, in a different primary school, where I did my class 8, St. Mary Academy in Donholm. My mom was teaching there. So it just made sense for, sort of, like I told you, you don't realize you're poor and realize, oh, wow, that's the best way to actually study. Because your mom gets to allow, she's allowed that you can be able to study there. That meant repeating a year. But then it was good because I passed my high school and I ended up in Upper Hill. The first day that I was at
Are all the great
school.
musicians and artists from Upper Hill?
The first day that I entered school like this, the first person I met was BN. We started giving people nicknames. So people would walk, we were like, that's for Doc Mendoza. Some guy came with a huge nose, we were like, that's Wangombe. And those names stuck. So me and BN ended up becoming good friends. We were desk mates, would write songs together. I mean, the whole shebang. That literally was my life. But my experiences, my struggle. I mean, when I was born 3 years after the coup, reggae music was sort of banned in Kenya. It wasn't like an outright ban, but because when the cops, the military who tried to overturn the government, when they went to KBC then, they made the presenter play reggae music. And unbeknownst to most people is that reggae music ended up being banned in Kenya. Chini ya Maji, like, he just wasn't allowed to play by the national broadcaster. So my uncles had listened to them play reggae music because it became the music of rebellion. So I listened to them play the music, and it was quite... my dad also, in fact, younger pictures of him, he's called Bob. People call my dad Bob because he loved Bob Marley. And I think that's where the love came from, even for myself. So I grew up poor, but we were very intentional about the choices we made, from my choice of school to my choice of upbringing, regardless of the fact that we were born poor, to every single thing that I did. My parents were quite strict. They didn't say exactly why they behaved the way they behaved, but I realized later, and it's a thing that I've carried with me, intention. With these rooms that you sit in, the things that you say, the choices that you make, the people that you decide to mix with, the things that you do might not be the choices that kids from poor backgrounds do, but they're very intentional. Yeah. So even my being eloquent, my choosing to read, my choosing to be a great performer, it was because you had to get yourself out of the ghetto. Yeah. And so you had to make intentional choices. And sometimes parents, grandparents will make the choices on your behalf. And I think those are the things that have sort of led me into being who I am. And even my choice of music, or the choice of the music videos that I do, and my choice of what I stand for. Again, intentional about being intentional. And that's literally my upbringing. It wasn't easy. It was quite... to be honest, I realized later, because my parents did everything they could to sort of cushion me from all of that hurt. But here I am.
Facts.
Yeah. Intention. That's interesting, because to have parents and have an upbringing where they seem to have been like, they see your future and they're trying to mold you in the best scenario to become what you can be. Yeah. I want to know about how you became an artist from an intentional background, because a lot of people's intentions, even though they're influenced by music, is not for their son or someone to go and actually do music. Yeah. So I was very curious to see that there's a balance there. They're intentional, but be what you want to be. So how did that work?
So when my dad watched me perform, I remember my dad coming to watch me perform in Lavington Primary School. And I remember him telling my mom later, yo, you need to go and see this boy perform. So again, like my dad coming from his sort of generation of men, he won't be there like hugging you and kissing you and telling you this is amazing. He won't do any, that did never happen. But I had him tell my mom that, hey, you need to go and see this boy perform. So that was the biggest validation that I think I'd ever want from him. So already, I think hearing that from him, but also him being very clear that, there's a time he had actually made me like stop music, like, you can do it after university, because it was becoming like a really serious thing. And he was afraid that it would actually end up hurting my school, studies. But then that validation was enough as a young boy. Like my dad, I had him tell my mom that this boy is dope.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what I needed. Yeah. So even as I was going through it now, and there's something as a musician, and I think it should apply to every single person, podcasters, actors, it's called your 10,000 hours. So your 10,000 hours as a musician is the hours you get in school when you're singing, in a choir when there's actually real training happening, in church where you sing, and now even in your own free time when you're performing on stage. Yeah. Well, most people think that because you can sing, because you have a voice, you literally leave one space and go and literally be amazing with 10,000 hours. So those 10,000 hours are the relationships you build along the way. So the relationship that I had with BN as a songwriter, he's written one of my songs called Jafika Mwisho. It's a relationship you build where some of the people that you study with end up being the marketing managers of the big firms that end up hiring you. So being a musician is one thing, but I tell people I'm not in the business of music. I'm in the business of emotions. Wow. So once whatever you're good at, once you take that thing away from what you do, what are you good at? So what do you really do? I'm in the business of emotion. My job is to incite, to challenge, to entice, to romanticize, to entertain. That's the business I'm in. It just so happens that the medium that I use is music or journalism or the radio or the TV. That's what I do. So that intention moved from what is this music all about to how can we turn this into a business? How do we use this? Fine, it doesn't pay all the bills. So how can I use my mouth, my attitude, my energy to do my PR? Because I do a lot of PR for people and for certain organizations that I've done. That then pays the bills for this lifestyle that comes with the music. So those things I've been very intentional about. And, along the way, the studio time, the working with the band, the putting yourself out there, the branding yourself to create this brand and this persona that people can say in a room. When they are in a room, they will actually think of Anto and nobody else. Yeah. That's what you work in terms of your intention. The singing is one thing, guys, but the being in people's minds. And they always say the most important thing you could do and really think about is when you leave a room, what taste do you leave in people's mouths? That's the musician. The music is just an avenue for all these dreams and things that I want. That's what I believe. I believe that being able to sing, being able to have a good voice, or doing all those things is just a means to an end. All these other things is what matters.
All right. Excellent. Fantastic. Again, as you can see, my hands are stretching. I'm just stretching because the points, I'm literally carrying the points like this in my hands before they fall in this room. So the next question I have for you, just to follow up on what you've said about intention and thinking about the taste that you leave in people's mouths. You left a very sweet taste for us.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. So very clever.
Vibes.
Shout out to Jollof Wagwan.
Jollof.
The next question I want to talk about is structure. I just want us to touch a little bit on structuring your talent and structuring your ability to move people and your emotions. How did you incorporate structure in your own talent and in your own capacity to make people feel so that you can be able to reach the heights you've reached today?
To be honest, I'm still trying to figure that out. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've sort of gotten anxiety maybe in the last 1 or 2 years is because when you're multi-hyphenated like myself, you sort of feel you're very pressured to be able to get everything right. And I think that's one of the things or the mistakes that we sort of have made in terms of how, especially as Africa, maybe let's say as Kenyans, how we are brought up, is that there's no room for failure. And so I think for me, structure, when you think about it as a ladder, and when you place a ladder on a wall, the anxiety that comes with, and that's sort of your industry or your talent or whatever, the anxiety that comes with it is that the ladder would fall. But the surety that comes with life is that the ladder will fall. So the idea that you're constantly worried about it falling should not be crossing your mind. Is that it will fall. But most importantly is that, does it break the ladder? Do you stand back up? Do you continue painting this wall that you've been working on? So you decide, do I start from the left all the way to the right? Because I saw we are stuck in the ladder and we never ever end up painting our walls.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's, to me, when we talk about structure, it's very difficult for me to say it because one of the things I've realized that I have to live every single day as it comes, but I have to be intentional again about where do I want to go. So what happened was I then said, so sort of, I don't want to be those guys who is asked a question, then it's like, okay, but the person watching at home is like, just give us the structure. So trying to be deep with that one. Is like I said, one is relationships. Relationship is very key. The people around you, the people that you interact with, you ask yourself, what value do you bring in the conversation, in the room, so the people around you can be of value to you and you can be of value to them. So when we talk about structure, relationships are very key because these relationships will allow you to be able to springboard yourself to where you want to go. So please take care of people and the relationships around you. You could be talented, you could have all the money, but you cannot throw money at people and expect them to sort of walk with you. So relationships are very key. A plan. Think of a plan. Have a vision board, for lack of a better word. Tell yourself, where do I want to be in 5 years? And put that vision board and be very clear with it. It's a very teenage sort of thing people think that people do. Cut that Maserati, put it on the wall. Cut those quotes and put them on the wall. Because the thing about the way the world is and the way energy is, you will find yourself working towards this goal without realizing that's exactly everything you're doing for. And have purpose. And I think great structure comes with purpose. I was taught a very interesting way of coming up with your purpose by a lady who's head of international content at Netflix. Hey. She's called Dorothy Getuba. And she sat me down and she mentored me and she told me, what is your purpose? So when she asked me the question and I met her, I still had not, I was like, what does she mean by this? What's purpose? And we had a very interesting sort of thing that she came up with. And she told me, what are you good at? So I was like, I'm good at singing, hosting and, writing and all those things. So what avenues do you use to be able to put these talents into practice? I was like, so there's TV, there's radio, I teach, I challenge people. And the last thing is, the world is a better place when everyone is. And once you answer those 3 questions, that becomes your purpose and you find your structure. And you're very clear about what you want to work on. So for me, then it became that I use my singing, my journalistic skills, my acting skills to teach, challenge, incite people to be happy. And so every single thing that I do, that becomes my purpose. And everything that I want to do within the 5 years that I want to plan, within the years that I want to release a new album, or I want to work on my PR company, or the school that I help my mom to run, each and every one of those, whatever structure I come up with is founded on the common denominator that is my purpose. Because you cannot have structure if you do not know why you want to paint your wall from the left to the right, or bottom, top, bottom. Why? That becomes your purpose.
Jeez.
Why are you even painting the wall in the first place?
Yeah, that's incredible. Firstly, as the conversation goes on, I'm realizing just how multifaceted you are. There's like another thing every 20 minutes that you do. So that's incredible. But
You guys, when you suffer like me, you become deep.
Come now, wise man.
I swear.
You don't need dreadlocks to be Rasta.
Yeah.
The thing you've said I can attest to as well that you've mentioned is the vision board. Like I do that at the end of every year, 31st vision board, and that year at least 50% of the stuff I see is work.
Yeah,
so,
it actually ends up happening.
Really works.
True story.
Yeah. So even your energy, as you talk, as you answer questions, there's a certain level of like confidence. There's a certain level of like you're very affirmed in all the sentences you say. But again, another balance we're talking about is that at the same time you're saying that as an individual in the last year or so you've suffered with anxiety as a man, and for you to even be able to say that so casually is a level of strength that takes to be able to just say it in a conversation and carry on talking. So I want to know, you mentioned it was a year or so ago. Firstly, how you realized that happened, and then how you mentioned therapy as well, how therapy has sort of helped you with that, because I'm imagining that you have to operate at such a high level to be able to do all of these, like, I'm counting 6 at the moment, 6 things. So how did therapy help, and how did you realize anxiety?
I think it happened during the pandemic. So what happened for me was, because that time the curfew was at 7 p.m. and my show then was ending at 8 p.m., my drive show. So what would happen was every 8 p.m., every single day when I'd go home, I realized, like, to be honest, it makes you feel very, it's just, at the beginning was that I was happy. I was like, I'm the only one who's driving in Nairobi. Like my life used to be lit. And my life was just me putting I actually bought even a sticky thing on my car. So I'd put the phone and I'd do a live for people all the way to my house.
Oh, dope.
Because it was just empty.
Yeah.
And guys were just interested to see Yanni. And then I beat the cops. I'd sort of hide my phone a little bit. That stopped me. By the second week, they knew me. They're like, Anto. Anto. But with time, it started to also bother me. Because I'm a very social being, and it started to make me realize this is not normal. This driving at night, there's no people, you don't talk to people, you can't meet, I can't perform on stage, I can't meet people, I can't have guests on my show. And then I was constantly reporting death. Every single day. I'd either have to have the CS play on vox pops of him speaking, or the CAS Mwangangi, or the CS Kagwe, Motai Kagwe. So, but one thing was clear, I was constantly, literally swimming in bad news all the time. So whether it was, and then the other silent pandemic that came was gender-based violence. And so with GBV now, I was also again in the thick of it, because I had to also still talk about it on the radio show. So I was literally in the behemoth of all of these things. And then it started affecting me, because now I was very keen on what is the purpose of life. And death became a very constant reminder in my head. So my biggest fear, I think, has always been heights, but then it was now manifesting through death. And I was constantly worried about, so what's my purpose? What am I here for? And so these things, again, I compartmentalized them and I moved on. But then even when we came back, the country came back, it's now started bothering me with the racing thoughts and the intrusive thoughts. And like, you could be in a room and you're thinking about 100 things that's happening, but I'm supposed to, and I shoot. Today is Mantalk, and after Mantalk, and so like I've been speaking to you, but my brain is telling me that I should be in town by 3, and there'll be traffic, and you're constantly thinking the worst. So you're constantly thinking the worst can happen. It's never about these amazing things happening, the flowery, and you'll try to think about them, you forget them. So this happened to me so much. And and this is the first time that I'm going to say this, but people don't know, I actually got 2 attacks when I was hosting, I can't remember the guest, I'm trying to remember if it was Arrowboy or somebody. No, I remember, I was hosting the cast of Crime and Justice. And I literally got a panic attack. and you sort of feel this thing go through your body and they didn't notice and nobody noticed because you can't tell. I think there's only one guy who's sort of gone viral on TV for getting an anxiety attack, but for me, you couldn't tell, and it really bothered me, and it started happening to me. The other one happened when I was on air, and I remember I was doing a mention that a client had paid for, and once I forgot one word, which was in my brain, but I forgot it. I couldn't say it with my mouth, and I choked up, and I went silent on air. And I played music like nothing had happened. Then I went back on. So I made it look like like I was choking. And, my fans were just like, these things happen. And I moved on. And then I realized, I think I need help. Yeah. So I remember calling. And it's funny, I'd hosted a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or psychotherapist, one of those, who I had been introduced to. And we were talking about banning of schools and why we need to talk about mental health, about young people. And it's so funny, and I thought about it, and I was like, I was hosting these people on my show. 3 or 4 psychologists have come to my show to talk about anxiety and depression and all these things, and here I am needing them now for this help.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
When it happened, what physically happened? Can you walk us through what happens?
So what happens is you sort of feel like it's like a spasm. You feel like your brain, like something moves from your brain all the way to the soles of your feet. You just feel sha, and it's sort of a bit electric. You get we always say this feeling of water passing through your stomach, so it cuts you. It's like it cuts you, and fear. When something bad is about to happen, and that's the fear you get. That's the way you feel it. And I trembled a bit. I was a bit shaky. You become a bit blank. Your mind is blank. But one of the feelings which is weird, you actually believe that you're going crazy. Yeah.
What?
You do believe you're going crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah.
In the middle of an interview.
Yeah, you do believe you're going crazy because you're like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening to my brain? It's because you see, the first thing you believe is that you actually think that you are going nuts. So that's the first feeling you get. Like, I'm going crazy. What? So now you have to, and now when you're holding that feeling inside, that's now the anxiety. It's like now you're really holding it like, oh, don't act it out.
Yeah.
You see, now you're stuck in a rut. Like, what is really happening to me? So there's all those things. And there's more things that happen along the way, like depersonalization, call it or depersonification, where you feel like you're living a lie. So I could be here and then I'm feeling like, is this really happening? Is this fake? Maybe I died.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
No, that's horrible.
Oh, yes. It's called depersonalization. You're like, maybe I died and then now I'm living like
a projected image.
There's a day I went to Twitter, I was like, I want to see people have ever said rest in peace, Anto.
No. What?
Maybe I'm living that life.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, I'm serious.
Turn on the freestyle.
So these things, and people go through them, and you can imagine mine isn't as bad as for other people that I have been. When I started going for therapy, one of the things my psychotherapist told me was like, you are so lucky, you're so strong that you didn't sort of take on your impulses and you dealt with it. Because then you feel like, you could be in a plane and you want to open the door so you could run. Because the thing about anxiety, it's fight or flight. So you're constantly thinking, I need to fight for my life. Because that's the way we are. And it forces you to read a lot, to go to YouTube and check all these TED Talks and self-care tips and whatever. Because you really do feel like something bad is about to happen and you're constantly stuck in that rut, or you want to run. So imagine being in a flight and all you want to do is fly. So you feel like you're going to open the door and run. And it's a chemical in your brain that causes all these problems. And it's, again, it's an issue of childhood, the traumas that we go through, our expectations, and all these things that we have. And honestly, and also being a man, that for men, you do not talk about these things. You don't come here and start telling us the way I'm feeling. Men are not meant to feel. So why are you feeling? Why are you being problematic with your feelings? Why are you telling us? Why are you worried? Why are you run it out, football it out, drink it out, man it up? So those things now, but when you think about the life and the society that we live in, we cannot just put these things and compartmentalize them and move on with our lives. Yeah. This is why we have issues at home in terms of gender-based violence. This is why we have issues of drug and alcohol abuse. This is why we have issues of depression and death by suicide, because we don't allow people to open up just because we're stuck in you are a man. Jeez. While we busy take our men to go and be psychologists and psychiatrists. So who are the men supposed to treat if they can't treat fellow men? Yeah. What's the whole point? I know, to be honest, it's like, it's really, I never like using the word crazy, but it's crazy. It's like, what is that? Yeah, it's a situation for sure. Yeah, and a lot of people are going through that. And one of the reasons why we have a lot of deaths by suicide is because people just don't know who to talk to. And that, I think there's a thing, it's called I think akinesia or akithisia or something. It's a constant feeling of wanting to be dead. So even when one of the things about people who go through depression and anxiety is, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is ask someone if they want to hurt themselves. And because they actually, death to them is not hurting, it's freeing. Right. Yeah. So it's a very weird loop and rut to be in. And especially for someone like me who is so confident that it's like, this just feels like a buzzword. There's no way this guy could be anxious. So how is this person anxious? Yeah. He's on TV, he's on radio, he's performed, he's from SA, he just went tomorrow, he just went to the Motor Expo next week. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But people are going through it and thick through it. I'm just one of the few who now I feel like I can talk about it. And I always feel like I was given the burden to be able to use the platform for that. Yeah.
The therapy that you mentioned. Yeah. So how's that sort of...
It's very interesting, you've got grounding techniques that, that you're taught to use to ground yourself when you feel like, this is not real, like this is not feeling real. I'm very keen on sounds and sights, so you sort of ground yourself constantly, and just talking and being in a room when you talk and you realize that it is okay to just talk. And the thing about it is that you even start to ask yourself, why am I like this? Why? And you realize just you talk to people. So I think one of the things that I'm lucky with is even being in these scenarios, it sort of feels like therapy to me because I am talking to people. Yeah. I think I'm the sort of person, I'm so social that I should never be left on my own devices to just sit and chill and think. And it's called ruminating, and just ruminate. Why is the world like this? Where are we going after all this? Yeah. Those questions that people about purpose and asking yourselves, and people go crazy for that stuff because they're like, yo, man, I don't know why I'm here. And then imagine if I didn't have the radio job, or if I wasn't financially stable and having to be constantly worried like that.
Yeah, I can see.
Imagine other people, what other people have to go through. So yeah, therapy does help a lot, and I think it's okay. And I also, again, I'm at the advantage of being able to afford therapy. It, yeah, that's the other thing. People can't. It's not easy.
Are there any options? Have you encountered any options on your side where, like, affordable therapy is available?
I don't wanna scare people who are therapists by when they hear me say this. But I think one of the things as a first aid for yourself that you need to do is when you're getting, for example, insurance, if you're able to, please make sure you can get insurance that can allow you to get, whether it's public or private, mental health help, because not every insurance can do that. Yeah. So information, again, is very key. Don't just get any insurance. You get one that can allow you to do that. 2, YouTube. Just type self-care on YouTube. There's people who you can listen to. There's a guy called Sadhguru. I'm not like
a qualified therapist.
Qualified for that. But there's a guy called Sadhguru who he talks about things like, being able to sleep at night, stop worrying a lot. He talks about issues that probably lead you to that sort of feeling anyway, preventative. And so listen to those kind of people. Go to TED. TED Talks, I've got a lot of talks on anxiety and depression and anxiety and generalized anxiety disorders and all those things. Because the thing about anxiety is that it's self-diagnosable. You can be like, I think I have anxiety. You can tell. So listen and, just meditate and have all those things. But most importantly, be able to speak and speak it out. Some of these things become normal and become normalized because we're allowed to speak to people. Yeah.
Fair.
So I think that would be, but especially when it comes to getting help, professional help, please get insurance that can allow you to go to a hospital that allows you to get mental health checkups and stuff like that. Because not every insurance allows you, and you'd be a waste of your money if you get insurance and you can't get that help.
Got you. Yeah. Anto, you have given us a lot of wisdom about mental health, about South Africa, about being intentional and finding your purpose.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your music, especially. I listened to your song "Deliver Me" that dropped, I think,
on Friday.
On Friday, the 3rd of June.
Yeah.
Talk about the project, man. Like, tell us what you're thinking.
So
welcome to your soul.
Yeah, welcome to my soul. So I have a new album that's coming out on the 17th. Will this be out by then?
Yeah, I don't know what the date is.
So my album came out on the 17th.
It's doing really well.
My album is coming out on the 17th. Yeah. It's called Welcome to My Soul. So the reason why I decided to work on a new album with an amazing producer called Dili is because when I released my first album in 2014, 2015, I was signed to a label then called Pine Creek by Peter Nduati. And I just done Chips Funga, and I think he listened.
It slaps.
Yeah, I know. It's just that song that slaps. And he had me in a plane, and he was like, "What?" By the time he landed in Nairobi, he was looking for me. So that was my journey then, and I felt like because of being away from sort of working on a full body of work for a while. I mean, I've done a couple of pop songs here and there, a couple of collabos. I felt like I wanted to go back to the essence of who I am. And I'm a very soulful person. I mean, even my choice of words and the way I speak, I wanted to be very also confident and sure in my music. So Welcome to My Soul is literally a body of work about me talking about love and heartbreak and life in general. I think I work best. I don't know if it's because of my background, but most of my great music is of heart. Even Chipsunga is a heart song. I was heart. So that's literally it. And so with the song Deliver Me, this is the funny thing about Deliver Me. I like weird themes. So Deliver Me, the idea is meant to be that I fell in love with a nun. And that's why I'm singing Deliver Me. If you think about it, you think it's a gospel song, but it's Deliver Me. And at the end of the song, I sing, "Hey, baby, full of grace," which is an interpolation of Hail Mary. Oh. Yeah. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with you. Hail Mary, full of grace. Blessed are you amongst my exes.
I didn't like that. I don't like that.
Now that you've thought about it, you're like, hold up.
This mic is about to turn into a flame.
Like, what has happened? Yeah, Mantalk. Shindwe. So I'm very and the music is about that. It's also again about men were not allowed to speak or be or behave like that. So for me, and I've been intentional about being one of the few men who can sing and be very deep about singing about heartbreak and being let go. And there's songs like "Are You Ready?" where I'm telling the chick, "Tell me, are you ready?" which is coming out this Friday, which came out on the 10th of June, which is "Are you ready?" Like, do you want this? And the album is sort of a story in its fully, because just so I can make it a bit clear. So when I think about when I talk about the album, so you have Breaking News. Breaking News is me talking about like I'm a bad boy, and I actually say in the song, "Breaking news, ask my exes what they say. I'm bad news." I'm bad news, like I'm a bad person. And then I meet this chick by the Jacaranda. And I'm like, because Nairobi in September, October, there's so many jacaranda trees and it's just beautiful. I was driving by Valley Road and I was like, I'll write a song called Jacaranda. So I meet her by the Jacaranda and I ask her, "Are you ready? Like, are you ready? Is this what you want?" By the time I'm singing Deliver Me, I'm like, me who said I'm bad news, now I can't get you out of my head.
Yeah.
Could you please leave me alone?
Got it.
So when I sing Sema, it's like, okay, what do you really want? Because you've messed me up. Sema unacho kitaka. What do you really want? And by changanya, I'm still confused. Changanya means
to mix.
You're really mixing me up. Like, what do you want? Whatever. But at this time, she's cooled down and we're sort of together. And now I'm telling her, switch it up. Switch It Up is a very sexual song. Because there's also this tendency by women to say, me, you don't know me. Me, the things I can do to you. Me. Now I'm like, see, now we're together. Switch it up. Do those flips you said you'll do. And it's a very bedroom song. It's like, put a pole in the bedroom and show me. Switch it up. Wear those clothes. Go buy clothes online. Wear that lingerie and show me and
buy clothes online.
And teach yourself how to twerk.
Yeah,
so that's the thing also. It's like, it's always like we are supposed to be the ones to know everything. We're supposed to go for an hour. And you? What about you?
This is a good
Why
question.
aren't you working?
Welcome to Mantalk.ke.
Yeah.
Where we have honest and other way conversation.
Why aren't you tickling things that you told me you do it? Use chocolate, peaches and cream, buy wine, do those. Why is it always us who have to? So show me. And then Kiss, Command and Promise, which is a play in that song we sing as kids, Kiss, Command and Promise. By the time you kiss a girl, you're making, and she's telling you to do things for her, like your wish is my command. You're also making a promise to one another that this is who we want to be. And the song is Welcome to My Soul, which is again an interpolation of welcome. So I'm singing, welcome to my soul, city down. So now it's my parents now getting to get her, because we've gone through all the space. Then there's nothing like sex before marriage, because that's not in our generation. So we've done all those things, and now it's me saying welcome to my soul. And my vow to her when she's standing right next to me at the chapel or whatever is Niwe. The song is a very jazzy song, which is it's you that I want. From breaking news to it's you that I want. Yeah. Which on the horn section we have Owora Runga, who's a Kenyan who's played for Malcolm and Ryan Lewis, and he's won a Grammys before, and he plays amazingly in Niwe. So that's literally the whole project. Yeah. Intention again.
Come on.
Intention.
I was with you in the Jacaranda, you know what I mean?
Boy.
What a judge.
Boy.
That's incredible.
Can't wait for that to drop.
Yeah. Guys, definitely we're gonna
Is it available on Spotify?
It's available on Spotify because you know what?
Did you hear that?
In fact, the album already, the songs already are available on Spotify, New Music. By the Spotify people, these people are the best.
We agree.
New Music Friday Nigeria, New Music Friday Ghana, New Music Friday Kenya, Sizzlers and Spotify.
The plugs. They brought us together and then they give you, come on now.
Walk the talk.
Yeah, facts.
Amazing. And so, because of the interest in time, I just want to say, firstly, thank you. And I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
I think I'm on 7 things that you do now. So the fact that you took the time to come here. So thank you for making this.
Thank you very much.
So I want to ask you if you could whisper in the ear of Anto when you were with your parents and they're being very intentional, and you knew what you knew now. You knew you were going to be going to SA. You knew you were going to be making incredible music, telling girls to switch it up, etc. What would you,
etc.
Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
What would you whisper in the child of Anto?
I think it's something that I've been telling myself. I wish I told myself a lot. You are enough. Yeah. You are enough. I think it's something that we are not reminded a lot. And it comes to, and by you are enough does not mean that you should hold back. Because I think as that kid at Hotanamba can say, what do you mean I'm enough? So is everything okay? Nope. That you are just enough and don't hold back. Because a lot of times we're never tall enough, we're never short enough, we're never dark enough, we're never talented enough, we're never right enough. We always feel like we need to diminish ourselves so people can be louder in a room, or we need to be louder in a room so people can listen to us, or we need to push people or step on people so we can be heard, or we need to backstab people so we can make it to the front, or we need to jump the queue so we can be more eloquent. All those things that we constantly have to do the most just so we can feel enough. I think once we begin to strip ourselves of the weaknesses, of the lack, of all those things, then we realize that we are already enough. In your timing and in your own essence and your own energy, you are literally enough to be able to move the world without having to be anything other than who you are.
Brilliant.
You don't have to move the world by being a mean person or a sucking up person or an unkind person or a richer person. And all those things might be necessary in certain moments, but you don't have to get out of the essence of who you are. Because you do know when you're unkind in a room. You do know when you're not nice. You do know when you're stepping on people. You do know when you do those things that you have to do sometimes to get you places, but they're not necessary. Because time heals and time allows you to stand and be counted and look back and say, I didn't have to do anything to hurt or disparage or lack, so I could be at the head of that room or I could be at the head of the queue. All those things could happen in their own time just by being you. And the 3 C's that I also I thank God that I think this happened to me earlier on. constant, consistent content. Be constant in who you are. Be constant in the values and the principles that you hold dear to yourself. Be consistent in how you project those values in who you are, in your content, in your episodes, in how you speak to people. Be consistent about that and have content. The value that you bring on the table, the value that you place on the table, that's the content. That's what people should remember you for, and not the pluses and the subtractions that you have to get from people. You don't have to subtract from people, and you don't have to add to yourself for people to see the value in who you are. So I wish somebody told me that.
And now you've told all of the guys.
No, okay. Shout out to everyone who had to hear that, man.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Amazing.
Powerful. One last question.
Yeah.
One last question. Because he forgot to ask the last question.
The one thing, yeah?
Yeah, the one thing.
Yeah.
First of all, Anto, of course, I don't need to say what he has said. We do not like to put ourselves in Kenya. If you're watching this from South Africa, we say it once.
Yeah.
You've been incredible, man. Like,
thank you so much.
Sheesh.
Can't wait to make the reels. I can't wait.
The reels are going to be mad over here. Last question. A piece of content, a book, a movie, something that you've experienced that you'd like someone to experience. Would you give us that recommendation so we can be able to carry that forward to our audience?
There's a book that I read when I was quite younger. I was made to read this book by, she's called Alison Giboine. She's a filmmaker. I think she's not the Kenya Tourism Fund. She was one of my first bosses. And there's two books. One on my first bosses, she's called Muthoni Gallant. She's a book called Tracking the Scent of My Mother. I think and I have a very close relationship with my mom, but I think for a lot of people who have always felt that they've sort of lacked a sort of understanding of who they are and their roots and what their purpose is, I think that's a very powerful book. It's called Tracking the Scent of My Mother by Muthoni Gallant. The other book is Who Moved My Cheese? Who Moved the Cheese or Who Moved My Cheese? By Who Moved My Cheese. I was made to read that book by Alison Giboine. It's a very powerful book because a lot of times we always ask, who moved my cheese? And the cheese was probably right there all along. There's people who come and they move the cheese. There's people who come and store cheese and they just look at it there. There's people who come and utilize the cheese. And it's a book about mice. And the mouse is basically asking, who moved my cheese? And a lot of times in life, especially when you come from a background that I come from, we always look at life very passively or pessimistically. Like, am I really meant to be in this room? Am I enough? What kind of person am I? Who do I need to be able to make it? But go read Who Moved My Cheese. You sort of understand what kind of a mouse you are and why you probably just never moved your cheese. You just sat there and your cheese was moved for you. And those are opportunities, or those are your goals. Who Moved My Cheese is literally, I think, a 32-page book.
Wow.
But it's one of the most read books in the world and one of the most important pieces of information you'd really want to read. I think it's important. And I think even a book like 1984 by George Orwell, we also have to have purpose in the way we move and everything that we move, whether it's from a political point of view or whether it's from a purpose point of view. It's very important that you read certain books like that. They're quite important. I'll Marry When I Want by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. The importance of choices and liberation and again, and the need to have purpose in your community. I think that's very important, even as you read about the person. But I'll Marry When I Want is quite a prolific book that you need to read. When I was younger, my dad made me read this book called Barin S.M. Otieno. It allows you to understand the intricacies of different cultures, having a Kikuyu lady having to bury her husband, S.M. Otieno, and the conflicts of those cultures and how they collide, and what that means from the judicial point of view, from the cultural point of view, and societal point of view, and how we view women and how we view men, and just even the understanding of dead bodies and how we view that over life and matter. So, those, to be honest, the way that I speak now, this is and how I've always been. I've just been a product of all these moments and scenarios that have allowed me to be a bit different from how I would have been if life took a different path. So there's that. And from a movie standpoint, I'm not the movie aficionado, though it's funny, I've been in film and all those things, but this will sound very, very, very strange right now. But go watch Sarafina, please. I know, just
joking?
It's not like I'm beating this South African horse, but go to Sarafina after understanding what happened on 16th of June 1976.
Did you watch it again?
Yes.
I haven't watched it again.
I had to. It changed everything that and I couldn't get it on that. I don't wanna big them up. I couldn't get it on the streaming service, so I had to go get someone with a flash and download it for me and play it on my TV. Because nope, I really think I need to understand what Sarafina is really all about now.
Yeah,
I think that was
deep,
quite
man.
deep.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched Sarafina, but I'll definitely do that tonight.
Yeah. You've given us
and life and watch Mantalk.
There
I
we
think
go.
what you guys are doing, and sorry, it's a thing that I always do every time I'm interviewed by people. A lot of time people don't like to toot their horns, so I think what you guys are doing is not impressive. I think the word is, and you've seen me do this before, where I make people feel like, Jesus, they're about to say something bad.
Just did it to the waiter, I remember.
Yeah. It's not impressive. I think it is very impressionable. And the thing about impressive might be personal to you. I don't know, maybe you guys want to impress yourself, that's your own problem. But impressionable is quite big because there's people who have to watch you and tell themselves, that's the man I want to be. So this isn't about you anymore. And I think when you realize that your purpose is bigger than and I don't want to be lewd, that is bigger than the organs that you carry, because by mere fact that you were born, that becomes your gender. But the way you move and the way that you carry yourself and the things that you stand for, that's what it means to be a man. It's way bigger than I am M on my birth certificate or on my ID. So being able to carry the mantle and show people that it's not that this is the way, but we think this should be our journey. So for that, I applaud you. And I think you deserve your honors and your carnations. People like to say roses.
There we go.
But here at Mantalk, we will like being expensive.
You may have
the
noticed.
most low Kikuyu you'll ever meet. Carnations and lilies. You take all of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that really means the world. You left an impression here as well, so thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And watch the album and
get the album, do all that.
Yeah, please.
Subscribe, like, share to
all that
Mantalk.
good stuff. And we'll see you next week for another episode.
Bye-bye.
Peace.